Now you can see my screen, right?
Yes, I can. And for everyone who's part of the webinar already, you probably just received the message that we're going to be starting right now. Actually, we're going to wait about 10 more minutes to let more individuals filter in. But we just want to say thank you for attending our webinar today. And yeah, we should be starting soon. Go ahead and get started here. Today's webinar content is going to be Families First Coronavirus Response, Act 101. Just a little housekeeping. All lines have been muted. Myself and then our speaker today, Mike Ritzema, will have access. However, if you do have questions, please feel free to put those in the question log box down here. We will have a question and answer period at the end that will address those. Also, please do not click on the little box in the upper right-hand corner. That will kick you out of the webinar. Okay, a little bit about us before we begin. Superior Trucking Payroll Service, we're a full-service payroll administration. If you are looking for a payroll solution that is specifically trucking-based, please keep us in mind. Everything we do, direct deposits, garnishments, calculations, W-2s, 1099s, and then we also have a new driver recruitment application tracking system as well, and HRIS built in. A little bit about our guest speaker. Mike Ritzema is the founder and president of Superior Trucking Payroll Service. He has 20 years of payroll experience, member of many transportation associations. He's a former CFO for a truck fleet of about 75 in brokerage, and 10 years trucking finance experience as well. With that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Mike. Are you ready, Mike?
I'm ready. Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you, sir.
Here's what we're going to talk about today. The webinar about the Families First Coronavirus Response Act and what that all means, but here's kind of a line by line. A few quick notes, and then we're going to talk about what this law does have in it and what it does not have in it. We're going to talk about how, as employers, you're going to get made whole for the money that you'll be paying to employees to not work for you. We're talking about some of the things that could happen by not following the law, and some other law changes that are coming, and just some ideas to get through these challenges. These are times that none of us have seen, and so just a few things about that. And then questions and answers. And as Brandon said too, you can type your questions in anytime in the question box. I can't promise I'm going to have an answer for all of these. This is all pretty sudden. It's not something like our per diem webinar where I have pretty much all the answers right in front of me. This one I may have to look for some answers, but if you put them in there, what we'll do is we'll send out after the webinar, we'll answer all your questions via an email and we'll send it to everybody. That way we all get the best information possible. So a few notes about what was going on here. Excuse me just one second. Of course, I got something in my throat. As far as us, Superior Trucking Payroll Service and the coronavirus response, we have 75% of our people working remotely right now. With 24 hours notice, we can be at 100%, and so we could all be working from our homes. But we're looking at, we're trying to stay on top of this. We're going to make sure our payrolls get out. Not paying people isn't going to help anybody, so we're going to make sure that everybody gets paid who's supposed to get paid. And to that end too, just as a side note, Michigan just announced where we are. Michigan just announced an hour ago that they're going to go to the shelter in place as well. Trucking and logistics and financial services are essential employers, and so we're not affected by that, so I'm not ordered to stay home. We are going to minimize our contact with people that are not employees here, but that's same as everybody else. Another quick disclaimer, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not an epidemiologist, I'm not any of those other big long words they're using. So I'm not really getting into the virus spreading or the legal part of it. I'm just trying to help us all figure out what we're supposed to do. Also, we're focusing on the law itself. I'm not focusing on the politics of the president is great or the president is terrible or whatever. That's not my issue. My issue is helping us all figure out what we need to do. There are plenty of other people who will tell you what they think about it. All you have to do is ask them. So let's talk about the law. The law has multiple parts. The main part is the Emergency Paid Sick Leave Act. They've given a nice little acronym, EPSLA. I've listed on the webinar, I've listed a lot of things on the pages, which I don't normally do when I do a webinar. I like to tell you about the things and just give you a couple of bullet points about it, but we're going to be sending this out to you later, and I think a lot of you are going to want to know these things, and so I typed a lot of it out on here. So I'm sorry that I'm mostly reading some of these things to you, but I wanted to make sure you'd have the information and be able to remember it and be able to have a copy of it later. So you get 2 weeks pay for being, if you're diagnosed or getting tested for the virus, up to $511 a day, up to 80 hours basically is how that works. Or if you're instructed by a healthcare professional or public official to self-isolate, I think today's order might include some of that for those in Michigan for at least 2 weeks. You can get paid up to 2/3 of your wage, up to $200 a day, to care for a child who doesn't have childcare. And with all the schools, again, in Michigan, I don't know every state's situation, but I imagine most of the schools are closed now. If you have to take care of a child who doesn't have other health care, or their child care provider is closed or the school is closed, the employee can do that. You can care for a family member that has the diagnosis or symptoms, or self-isolation. The conditions are defined by Health and Human Services. I think that's going to be less often. A couple of quick things. This is in addition to any sick pay you already give people. So this is an extension of the benefits. It's not to replace your benefits. And to that end, you can't change your leave policy now. If you previously gave people a week of sick pay, you still have to give them that. You can't take that away. Now they would get 3 weeks instead of 2 up on the top part of that. And you can't require them to use their other time first if they're sick. You can't make them exhaust vacation policy for the Emergency Paid Sick Leave Act part of it. We're going to get to where you can do these things for the other part, which is the other main part of this, is the Emergency Family Medical Leave Expansion Act. It's acronym's almost as long as the name. It's an amendment to FMLA. FMLA was 1993, I believe. And again, it's also the 12 weeks again at up to 2/3 pay, maximum of $200 a day or $10,000 per employee. You have to be employed for 30 days. It's not somebody who you hired today. They did restrict this. There were original bills that had this as care for any family member. This is just to care for one of your kids without school or childcare. It's not to cover sick time or anything like that. The employee has to be restored to their position or equivalent position upon their return. And then under 50 employees can be exempt from this. And this is a quote from the bill. When imposition of such requirements would jeopardize the viability of the business as a going concern. We're going to talk about that a little more in the why you should follow the law. There's also an exemption for under 25 employees that's similar to that. And employers of more than 500 employees are exempt from this law altogether. I don't know why, and it's a political thing, so I'm not going to go into it, but that's just the law. They're not required to follow this. Yeah, I don't know why. This is a trucking webinar. We're talking about average wage for driver, or average wage for employees, which the government wrote the law in a way that is for salaried and hourly people. They don't talk about drivers in there. First of all, they talk about 80 hours pay, but drivers work more than 40 hours a week. We all know this, especially the drivers that are over the road. We have to tell them that they can only work 70 hours in 8 days or however the current DOT laws are. So they don't do anything to explain for this. They don't give you a guideline. And so that's something I want to help you with. what I would say is to use your past history and average it out to get their average weekly pay. Use 13 weeks, use 26 weeks, use 52 weeks, whatever you want to do. But whatever you do it the same for everybody. And this is, of course, for drivers that can't work because of the conditions that we talked about previously about being sick or having to care for their children. Don't employ different methods for different people. You're just going to get in trouble. It's just asking for an unnecessary lawsuit. Right now, everybody's trying to work together and doing the right thing. You know, when this is all going to settle down at some point. When it does, I fear there are going to be opportunists out there looking for ways they were mistreated. And unfortunately, there may be employers looking to mistreat people, and I'm hoping it's none of you guys. But yeah, just let's not get hung up over the small stuff on this. I would use the driver average wage as 40 hours. I know they work more than that, but again, you've got to convince a court of that. And I wouldn't mess with it. If the driver makes $1,000 a week, I'd pay him $1,000 a week. It's pretty easy that way. That's what I would do. One thing that's going to come up is about per diem. If you pay per diem the way that we tell people to pay per diem, which is you take it out of their gross and give it back to them in the net, that's a very short version of the story. I would pay him the per diem as wage. But again, if you have a policy, if you have a way of doing it that's going to work, then just do it your way. The nice thing is that we're going to get to is you're going to get made mostly whole for this, at least within the period of the law. And this is where we're going. How do employers get repaid for this? Right now, let's make somebody make $1,000 a week. If they get 2 weeks of sick time because they have symptoms or any of the other qualifying conditions, you're going to have to pay them if you're subject to the order, which most people are going to be. You're thinking, well, they're just ordering me to spend money. No, what's going to happen is you're going to short your 941 payment by it. You're going to get a credit back on your 941, which is your employer's quarterly federal tax return. It's where they reconcile all the wages versus all the taxes you paid in for withholding and Social Security match and Medicare match. That's what that form does. And so there's going to be a line item on there, which I'll show you in a minute. Any excess you pay will be refundable. So if you had $12,000 in 941 tax due this quarter, and you had $15,000 in sick pay that you paid out, you can get a check back for $3,000 and plus any deposit you had already made. So you can get it all back. One important thing is these wages need to be separate from your other sick pay. If somebody's sick for something else, they just have a cold and no coronavirus symptoms, you can't just give them this as sick pay. So you're going to need to communicate to your payroll provider if you use us or somebody else, or you're going to need to note it separately if you do it in-house, because you're going to need to know which of these sick pay things are specifically for coronavirus and subject to this act, and which ones are not, because you only get reimbursed for the ones that are. And that's going to be really important. What I've done here is that it's kind of hard to see, but on the left side of the screen, you've got the full first page of the 941 for first quarter of this year. And then I kind of blew up lines 10, 11, and 12. And that's where it's going to come in. Line 11 right there. Let me get my drawing tool out here. Oops, did that work? This qualified this right here that I'm circling, they're going to expand that, I'm sure. They're either going to put an 11B in, or they're going to make it line 12 and move everything else down a line. And that's where you're going to get a credit. So if you had taxes of 12,000, I can't write very well, I'm sorry. And then you'd have however much here in your credit for sick pay, and then you'll owe the net. And so really what you want to do is if you paid $1,000 this week in coronavirus eligible sick pay and your 941 deposit was $1,700, you just pay the $700 in. For our clients, we'll help you manage that. We'll just only collect the $700 in that example. Check with your payroll provider, check with your in-house source about how you want to do that. But you really want to make sure obviously cash flow is always tight and it's not going to get less tight right now. So you only want to pay in the minimum you have to, of course. This is how that's going to work. And so you want to make sure you hold on to your cash since you're already paying it out to the employee anyway. Oh, good, I got my drawing on there. That's nice. What could happen by not following the law? Well, there's the under 50 employees exemption, and that was talking about the viability of the business as a going concern. That's different from I'm not going to be as profitable. I'm thinking of a driver specifically, but it applies to office people too. If they have to be critical for you to not let them go. Like the whole business stops if they don't show up. And if you have somebody like that, you probably already have a key man insurance policy on them. That'd be a good way to know, because if something happened to them tragically, which hopefully it does not, your business would be in trouble anyway. And so often those employees are typically executives, quite honestly. I think trying to apply that to a driver would be really hard, and saying, oh, we don't have to apply the law because we're under 50. I think that's asking for a lawsuit, so I really don't recommend that. Disallowing employees to leave. One of the questions I got from a client of ours last week when I started to set up the webinar was, do I have to let them take care of their kids if both husband and wife work? Can they both take the 12 weeks off or whatever to take care of their kids? They can. You hope that they don't. You hope that they are going to be reasonable about this, but it's not a fight that's worth fighting. It's not, it's just, you're not going to win. And so I get that it may be unjust. I understand that, but that's not the fight we can have right now. The other one I put on here was, because you're going to get reimbursed and because you want to help your employees, maybe you want to magically give them a raise to $511 a day for those 2 weeks. Don't do that. I give them a raise if they've earned a raise and keep the raise after the fact. But if you spike up and down, the IRS is going to, they're going to get wise to you. They can compare W-2s at the end of the year to the sick pay. There's if they choose to do it, they could do these things. And I know that you just want to help your employees because your employees are feeling financially uncertain right now. It's the whole economy's going haywire, but you really don't want to do that. You could run into issues too where the employee says, I got a raise and they took it away. I should have kept that raise all the time, something like that, just for trying to do a nice thing. You're just putting yourself in jeopardy for no good reason. So I would really advise against that. One other quick note, this is semi-politically related, but it's not politically related, so just kind of bear with me. If you're thinking how these laws are going to go, and you might think of how they're going to get enforced given the current administration, there is an election coming up in November. I have no idea who's going to win. My point is that things will change. Historically, one party is more worker friendly and one party is more employer friendly, and though that may change or it may stay the same, you don't want to assume anything one way or the other. If you just follow the law, you'll be fine. End of rant about politics. Here's some other laws that are coming, and here's some other changes that have already happened. Disaster loans. I've had some people ask me about these. They're available now. Most everywhere is a disaster area at this point, I believe. If you're not a disaster area because of the coronavirus, then good for you. That's awesome. But I think everybody else is. Somebody was going to ask, what is a small business? Because it's a Small Business Administration. There are a lot. I say everyone disagrees on here. There's a lot of different government agencies with a lot of different ideas of what is a small business and what is not a small business. The SBA has a guideline that a small business in transportation is under, they say under 500 to 1,500 employees. I don't know why it's under a range, but that's what they say. Again, and it's probably been that way for a while. It's not a shot at either party or anything like that. It's just, that's how they define it. So most of us are going to qualify as a small business. I have the links here. I will have them at the end of the presentation as well, and we will email them to you as well. So you don't need to worry about writing down login, question mark, return URL, and all that. We'll send it to you. But yeah, this is one of the big things, is that, with 2019 being a generally bad year for trucking companies, especially companies that work in the spot market, there was no wiggle room already. And now something like this could cripple people. And so the government wants to make that not happen. And they'll require, they list the requirements online. Basically, you have to pledge your assets if you have any. They don't require pledged assets, but if you have them, you're going to have to pledge them. Interest rates are between 2 3/4 and 4%, I believe. So it's a very affordable interest rate. and it'll hopefully keep you going through all of this. Here's some other laws that may be coming. There's the economic stimulus package that's been being negotiated over the weekend. I'm not sure how it's going to turn out yet, and so I put some ideas of what I think is going to happen. There could be payroll tax credits, there could be wage credits. They're talking about the $1,200 checks to people within certain wage brackets and things like that. I'm not sure how it's going to turn out. It may be being announced while I'm doing the webinar. I don't know. If it's anything with the wage side of things, we're going to do another webinar once it becomes law. Our general process is it becomes law, we get some ideas a little bit within the first 24 hours of it getting signed. We'll have an idea of what it's going to be, and we'll schedule the next webinar and make sure you're all invited. If it's just $1,200 checks to people, we're not going to do one because there's no point, but for the rest of it, you know, we're happy to do that. We want to keep everybody in the loop in a way that's meaningful. The IRS has already pushed out the filing date. First, they pushed out the paying date to July 15. Then Friday, they pushed out the filing date to July 15. So if you're in a rush to get your taxes done, you don't need to worry about it at this point. If you have a refund coming, the Treasury Secretary still encourages people to file because they want you to get the refund to keep the economy moving. And you probably want the money too. So yeah, file if you've got a refund coming. Your tax preparer can probably get everything from you by email or Skype or something like that if you use a tax preparer. Talk to them about it. And then there's the hours of service changes for the I call them critical COVID-19 loads. You guys have probably all seen that the FMCSA has come out with the big nationwide waiver. Just make sure that you've got all your ducks in a row on it. Make sure that I've seen things from different transportation attorneys and things like that, and I can connect you to them. But make sure that your bill of lading proper says that you have what you have. Don't just have it say freight all kinds or something like that. There's other things, and also don't put your drivers in jeopardy, please. We need them right now more than ever. Okay, here's some ideas. Some of these are payroll things, some of these are just life things. These are just things that I thought of that I think can help people. One of them is, the first one is about payroll. Really double down on direct deposit right now. The banks are staying open at this point, and I think they will continue to stay open as they're crucial to the economy. But, you know, even just handling cash right now is a way to transmit the disease, the coronavirus. So if we can discourage that, that would be better. There's also the issue of delivery of checks to people. I'll tell you, for us, we have some people we're in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and we have some local people that we bring checks to every week. We're going to stop doing that. They either have to come pick them up, or they're going to have to do prepaid debit cards or write their own checks. We've got to stop the spread of this thing. So really encourage direct deposit. It will be easier for the employee as well. They can get access to their money anywhere and not have to see people or try and drive their semi through a drive-through lane at a bank, which I'm just trying to imagine. For remote workers, if you've got your people already working from home, stay connected. Some sort of video meeting. There's Skype, there's Zoom, which is what we're going to use to do our meeting. Just stay connected to your people. You know, everybody's freaking out a little bit, and if you're a leader in your company and you can get with your people and just let them know you're still here and you're still working. Yeah, I think that's helpful and just helps us all stay together as a unit. You know, our people here are like a family, and we, you know, I don't get to see anybody, so, or 75% of the people. So it'll be good to put faces back with people. Try to stay informed. I'd advise you not to spiral on this if you can help it. There's a lot of news. There's also a lot of not news. I'll give you an example. My daughter's 16, and she's thinking she's gonna have to go to school until August because one of her friends told her that. I'm like, no, that's, first of all, it's probably not true. I don't think it's true. And secondly, don't worry about it right now. So I'm having to stop people from spiraling in my own home. So just try to do what you can with that. And then just some encouragement, you know, that this won't last forever. This is gonna last a couple months, maybe 3 months of the isolation part, but it's not gonna last forever. We're gonna get through it. You know, and then I thought of all the ways that trucking has stepped up to challenges over the years. You guys are so much more efficient now than you were when I was in 1981 or something, when they deregulated trucking, somewhere around there. One of you veterans knows this. 79, 80, 81, somewhere in there. Really, you haven't had a rate increase other than fuel surcharge in what 30 years, and you figured out how to do it better. You do on-time deliver, just in time deliveries that you used to be go to warehouses and they store 2 weeks worth of stuff. You know, you figure it out. You figured out how to get more fuel efficient. You do all this stuff. I've got so much faith in you guys as a trucking industry that you're going to get through this. And America is hopefully finally starting to recognize you guys, and not storing your truck when you pull up to a grocery store. You might have toilet paper in your truck, which I've seen stories of that too. But you know, we're going to get through it. You guys are going to be at the forefront of this. And then just as a personal thing, if you're feeling like you're spiraling, one of the best ways to do it is just write down 3 things you're thankful for each day. You don't have to share it with anybody. It's up to you. And it doesn't have to be profound. It can be a really good grilled cheese sandwich. You know, it does not have to be profound. It's just something to just remind yourself of the things that you have. And I know it sounds trite, but it works. And it stops people that are feeling anxious, especially the 3 thankful things every day. You just write them down every day. Today, I'm thankful for this, that I have Netflix, that again, it doesn't have to be a cure for any of this stuff. Just trust me, it helps. And I hope it helps you. Here's some links that we've got that I put in here. It's the 2 links. The middle 2 are the 2 I'd mentioned before. The top one is the IRS's guidance on coronavirus. The bottom one, though, that I want to highlight for you, if I can find the highlighter, you know, this one, we're updating that page constantly. We are, I put a few links on there now. I have not put a bunch on there yet. We're putting it together. I've got someone, I want to say in my office, but it's virtually, she's not here. She's finding a bunch of links for me. We're going to put them up there, and I would really appreciate it if any of you who are watching, listening now, or watching a recording of this later, send us links if you find helpful links that will help people with coronavirus, whether it's tax things or trucking things or even just personal life things. Send them to us. We'll put them up there. We'll credit you if you want to be credited for it. You know, or if it's trying to steal people's copyrighted stuff, but a lot of times people are going to give permission anyway. We can reach out to them too. So just if you've got other links, you know, send them to us and we'll put them on that page. But we're going to keep that page updated as much as we can. It's mostly going to be links. It's not going to be a lot of news necessarily. It might be links to news, but we don't want to make it. We want to make it something you can use and figure out what you're looking for right away without a whole bunch of text in the way. So that's kind of our plan for that. But yeah, shoot us something if you think we can put it on there for you. We're happy to do it. One of the things we have in there is a graphic about how to prevent the spread of this of the coronavirus. We didn't even put our logo on it. You can totally just copy it and put it wherever you want, or I'll email it to you if you want it. Or you can put your own logo on it. I don't really care. I'm not looking for make this a Superior Trucking Payroll Service thing. Okay, it's time for questions if you have any. And again, feel free to ask us questions later as well. We're going to email this out to everybody. Our email addresses are right in here. I don't know why Brandon's isn't highlighted. I'll have to fix that. But you know, reach out to us.
Convenient.
I know, right? Yeah, I guess apparently I must want all the emails because I don't, which is really not true. I'd rather they went to you, but yeah, that's what happens when you throw a webinar together really quickly. I see a question in here. I see it. Well, there's a few questions in here. My screen does not show them to me terribly well. Oh, here we go.
Well, here, Mike. I can read some of them off to you if you'd like. Okay. I'm gonna cut. As Mike said earlier, there's a lot of questions here, and so we're probably not going to be able to go through all of them, but I'm going to go through kind of in the order that they came in and kind of direct questions as well. If they're more specific to you, I'm going to have Mike answer those individually for you, but just be assured that everybody's question is going to be addressed. So the first one is, when does the new law go into effect?
I believe that's now. If it's not now, it's this week. Because and it's only good, but it leads to another good point. Both of these laws that we spent the most of the time on are only through the end of this calendar year. They are not perpetual. And as a side note too, it's not impossible that the negotiations for the economic stimulus package may alter this law. That's anything's possible. So, but yeah, they start right now.
Okay. This gentleman asked actually two questions, so I'm going to kind of tie them together. The first one, does this act apply to self-employed or owner-operators? And then the second part of the question, is there a 10-day wait period to start this process?
There's a 10-day wait on the second part, on the 2/3 for the caring of your kids. There's a 10-day wait, and during that 10-day wait, they can use any vacation or sick pay that you would have already provided. But that's just on the childcare part. There's not a 10-day wait on the 2 weeks at 100% of wage up to $511 a day. There's that first part. There's not a 10-day wait on that. There is a 10-day wait on the second part. As far as the owner operators go, they have talked about that they should get some relief for this. I have not seen anything defined for them, and they would pay it themselves. It wouldn't be for a lot of you guys who use broker carriers that own their own trucks, or if you have leased on drivers that own their own trucks. It's going to be their responsibility to take care of it. It won't be yours. But I have not seen anything good about how they've defined that yet. But I think that's an excellent question, and I want to be able to send that if I can find something about it for self-employed, because there's so many owner apps out there that this is really good information. Then you can pass it on to your owner apps, and because I know you're in it, you're not partners with them, but you almost are, and you're going to want to help them. So if they can get their own sick pay or whatever they need to get, I think that's worthwhile. And anything I can find on it, I'll be happy. I'll share it here, and I'll probably put a link on the website as well at truckingpayroll.com/coronavirus.
Okay. How many more do you want?
We got a couple more minutes. As long as people are hanging out, I'm good with it. I just, we try to do half-an-hour webinars. This is clearly a special case. For one reason, we had to throw it together really quickly, and there's still so much information out there, and there's so much unknown that we want to help people feel better about things. But at the same time, we'll probably only go another 5 minutes or so, and then everybody else's questions though, and it looks like there's a lot of them, which is awesome. I'm so glad that you have questions. We're going to get back to you. We're probably going to answer everybody's questions to everybody, and we may combine some of them that are similar questions, but we'll send it out to everybody. That way, because a lot of times I know when I'm in webinars like this and I'm listening, somebody else's question is something I'd want to know about too. So we'll send everybody's questions out together, probably if not today, then tomorrow at the latest. So yeah, hit me with a couple more.
Okay. This one, would the earnings base include overtime for drivers who are paid on an hourly basis?
Generally speaking, they would not. The hours are, they say that you got to pay them for 80 hours. Or up to 80 hours is the rule for the sick pay, and 2/3 for the other hours. The hourly, if you have drivers that are getting paid hourly, you should be fine there. I will double check this, especially things like bonuses and overtime often cloud the hourly rate. And so I will look into it, and I will still include it in the answers back to everybody in more detail, just because I want to make sure that I'm right. But I don't think it will matter, and especially, if your drivers, it's one thing too, if your driver averages 43 hours a week, so it's just a little bit overtime, or if they're averaging 70 hours a week, that's a different animal, of course, because then their hourly rate changes significantly. And good on you for paying overtime. You don't, a lot of drivers are exempt from that, but that's good for you for paying it.
Okay. And I think this will probably be the last one. And this is, I think it's a very good one. Is there a specific documentation we need from an employee that claims, COVID sick pay? Is there something specific that they need in order to, make sure that those individuals get that sick pay?
That's an awesome question, and I appreciate someone asking that. Right now, there's not. They just got to tell you that they are. You run into HIPAA problems. You run into all this kind of stuff. I would, if they say that they have been diagnosed with the coronavirus, and then you see on Facebook the next day that they're out somewhere, if you're in a state that's not ordered stay at home yet, you might want to look into it more. But other than that, there's really not much that they have to do. And I do think this kind of brings me to another thing. I do think that in this economic stimulus package, there may be a possibility of continuation of pay for layoffs. Um, Layoffs are probably coming for a lot of industries. I think as trucking people, we're going to be affected less because there's so much critical product that needs to move right now, and you guys are the way to do it, or we're not going to do it any other way. And so, but like other companies, maybe even your clients, are going to start laying people off, and they might want to say, "Oh, I'm going to get laid off. Well, I'm sick. I'm going to get 2 weeks extra pay." Yeah, that's going to be tricky. I'm hoping in the new economic stimulus package that they come out that they account for some of that and allow employers to pay continuation of pay and somehow make the employer whole for this. I don't know that they are, they aren't. I don't even know if it's on the table. I hear a million different ideas, and at least 10% of them might be true. So I just don't know. But no, as far as collecting that stuff, I would not ask for it. But again, I will double check that as well and see what we can do. So that's, yeah. Yeah, look at me, and there's so many questions. I'm so glad that, I'm not glad that people don't, I'm glad people have questions. I want to get to them all for you, but at the same time, we all got so much work to do. I know you guys are all feeling it too. You're all having to deal with all of all the challenges of remote work and things like that, just like we are. And plus you got to keep trucks moving, and you got to figure out if receivers are open or closed, and changing all your receiving processes and things like that. I mean, there's so much to do, and I get that, but I know you guys are up to the challenge, and so that's why I'm not as worried as some people about all this. I think it's a significant health concern, but I know that people are going to get what they need as soon as it's made, because you guys are going to make it happen. And with that, I think we probably need to wrap this up. We're already 10 minutes over, so I apologize for going a little bit over, but I know this is really important, and now I want to get at your questions so I can answer them to y'all in writing. Yeah, with that, thanks for coming. Thanks for being in trucking. We love trucking people year round, but a lot of people are catching up to us in the country, and they're all starting to love you guys a little bit more too. So it's about time. It's a very, very small silver lining in a otherwise bad situation. But yeah, any other things we can do for you at any time? We're going to do another webinar if that stimulus package becomes law and affects businesses. We're going to help you with that one too. But in the meantime, reach out to us if we can do anything. And thank you so much for everything you do.
Yes, thank you for everything, and for keeping food on our shelves, and for medicines, and for helping to be away from your family to take care of our families. We really appreciate it.
Awesome. All right. Well, everybody, reach out if you need us. Other than that, we're going to end the webinar, and hope you have a great rest of your day.
Have a great one, guys.